It makes economic sense today to go for solar.
Hello and welcome to the U20 Dialogue series. I'm your host Punit Gandhi from NIUA, and we are excited to bring to you a series of discussions on various urban development challenges faced by cities across the world and its potential solutions. This month, we will talk to experts working in the urban sector on the theme of encouraging environmentally responsible behaviors in cities.
Hello, Harsha, and welcome to Understanding Future. Great that you are on this talk show and will be helping our audience understand the future of rooftop solar. So, if you can briefly let us know your journey and EcoSoch journey, that would be of great.
Thanks, Puneet, for having me in the show. It's a great pleasure, in fact, to come and at least share my experiences. And really, you don't get these opportunities to actually talk about your journey to others. So, this my journey is probably inspires some of your audience as well. Just about EcoSoch, it actually comes to being part of the disaster that happened in 2004 when tsunami struck. I was in India at that time. I worked in one of the remote villages in India where tsunami had struck, and that actually gave me first-hand look at how nature can actually impact all of us, right? And that also brought me to understand the issues of climate change. Although tsunami was not climate change, but that climate change could cause equally damaging things to the world was something that I came around 2005. Since then, my whole outlook changed from being a software engineer in a MNC and doing work to actually thinking about climate change, the global issues, and how this is going to impact. So that pattern continued for 5 years. I didn't still make the jump, but then I finally decided that I should move from my cozy job in US to do something really on ground with climate change. So that brought me to India. My parents were here, so I said, okay, let's just do it here if I have to do it. Then I ended up actually in Auroville, Pondicherry. Some of you know that it's a sustainable township. I volunteered there with one of the organizations called Sunlit Future for the first few years. It's a township where they were already using solar in 2010, and they were using since 1995. And it gave me interesting picture about how the rooftops could make impact in a day-to-day life. Made me travel to different parts of the country, look at the villages, people getting the water through solar water pumps, and made me go to Himachal Pradesh, in one of the remotest areas in Spiti Valley, where the solar was a big impact because they've never seen the power in their life. So the whole thing, brought me to say, okay, solar is something that I really want to do, but it took me a while to understand, right, the nitty-gritties of solar. And in terms of climate change, I felt that it is better to do the real solar in the urban centers because that's where the pollution really happens. And that made me actually start my journey in Bangalore. The company started in around 2011. So we primarily focused, initial years was mainly in working with Auroville, doing these NGO projects. 2014, my other partner, co-founder, Mr. Hemant, he retired from ABB and he joined me through a common friend. Since then, we became private limited and started rooftop installations in Bangalore specifically. And then we've been doing it in and around Bangalore, Tamil Nadu, Andhra, Kerala. So two things happened. I think solar to take off and how our company also came is 2013-14, the policy for solar to be able to sell the power that you generate and consume to also to the grid had started. And 2013, that policy was a game changer for the industry because now you are not only a consumer, but you're also a producer. And that is happening all across the world. India was a little late start to it, but India was no less at all. I mean, I think India is, after China and a few other countries, India is, I think, probably in the top 5 positions in terms of renewables and especially solar. In terms of our company, we focused on rooftops. Our philosophy has been that wherever you generate, you consume it. rather than you keep it in a farm somewhere far away and then use that power from there.
That's pretty good. And if you can just let us know how much of installation or how much of systems you have installed, something on those lines, that would be great.
Right. So we have done around 5 megawatts, 340 installations. And it's significant when we think that the entire BESCOM, which is a local zone for Bangalore, only 2,500 installations. Out of that, we have done 340. Is not a small number. I mean, it's a good, decent percentage for a startup to have.
Yeah.
But it is insignificant when you think that in US today you have 2 million homes that have been solarized already. That's 20 lakh homes. And now in one of the biggest metropolitan cities in the country, in India, we have only 2,500 rooftop installations, which shows that how much behind we are when it comes to rooftops. India, unfortunately, has taken a route on a ground mounted systems for various reasons. Some of them are political, but rooftop has been neglected as a country. So it's insignificant in that way, but also you can understand that how much potential it has got, So I mean, Bangalore has got, at least like 10 lakh houses, 1 million homes that actually can be solarized. So we are at a very beginning of a bigger change to come.
True. And I like, it's absolutely a minuscule number. 5 megawatt is, to be honest, on electricity grid scale, it's nothing. But when we look at the amount of work done overall, it's like quite huge. Like, you are done maybe more than 10-12% of the total number of installations of Bangalore, which is still, and when we look at the bigger picture on those lines, it's still insignificant, which is very surprising that even after working for so long and trying to create so much of awareness and how things move, we have been able you have been able to make just a small dent. I hope that dent is now visible as well to everyone. That So, coming to the second point on these lines, why do you think this is a challenge for us? Why do you think that only Bangalore has only 2,500 systems instead of a million, and which could be much better for every one of us? Why do you think so? These challenges still exist after 5 years of policy being in place.
Yeah, a good question, Puneet. Actually, so many reasons, I think played here. First reason, I think solar, it has become grid parity. I mean, now the cost of solar is equivalent to grid in last 1 year or this year. But earlier, solar was expensive. For many people, it was still something that only if you have a lot of money, a lot of disposable income, then only you should go for solar.
Yeah.
But over time, the solar costs have come down drastically. Hopefully, that should translate to more installations in the future. The second factor also impacts is in a residential sector. What happens is government gives a subsidy today.
Yeah.
The subsidy is, for the first 100 units, you only pay 3 rupees or 4 rupees per unit. So that makes it much cheaper. It's a subsidized rate that consumers pay, right? So when you are comparing solar with a grid for a residential home, solar becomes extremely, on a higher scale. I mean, it's almost three times more expensive than the grid when you take the life cycle costs of solar.
Yeah.
So that's the second reason. The third reason I'll put it is a policy issues itself. Although the policy is a most conducive policy, I think, in India, which is there in Bangalore today.
Yeah.
However, the implementation of policy, they've got a lot of lacunas. For example, a customer gets a solar, but his billing gets delayed, because the local AAA or the local subdivision may not be able to understand how the billing comes as, he's a new hiree, or may not understand, he does a mistakes in the billing, because billing is still not centralized. It is individual Excel files that they have to send. Someone has to go and take the readings. People giving bad word of mouth to solar. When you get bad experience, you're not going to ask your friend to go for solar. The fourth one, again, the policy level, is that policies kept on changing. We had last 3 years, we had few months in the state where there was no policy at all. The policy was not announced by the regulatory commission. The implementation agency, which is a BESCOM, they took time to move the order that has been passed by KERC, which is a regulatory commission. So you have these policy issues that play quite a bit. I won't blame them. I mean, they're also busy, but there is no. I think it could have been better if there was a more focused rooftop solar division. Both at the regulatory commission as well as at the local ESCOM level, that actually can really look at increasing the uptake of solar. Unfortunately, today all the ESCOMs, they treat solar as a competitor. They feel that when someone puts a solar on their home, they're taking up their revenue. And
Okay.
when a government feels that way, you're incentivized to actually promote solar. So you have incentives that work against solar, because you're actually competing with the grid itself. They are the ones who are supposed to help you promote solar, but also it works against them, right? I mean, the departments lose revenue, the subdivisions lose revenue, and they can't lose their revenue on a month-to-month basis. So that's a concern. So this requires, some amount of money to be given, or some policies that are actually incentivize the local DESCOMs to promote rooftop solar. Hopefully, those changes would come. I mean, and I think there are technologies now, which hopefully we can talk about, that actually, which we think might make homes independent of the DESCOMs themselves. Then the whole dynamics of solar changes, and and more people probably would adapt to it. One more I can add is also awareness, Puneet. I mean, awareness in the consumers. Initial years, we have to really explain what solar was, how does it work. Solar
Yeah.
is not something that it's a necessity for anyone, right? Solar is something that's good for the environment, for everyone in long run. But in short term, it's better to buy a gasoline car, and which looks all shiny,
Yeah.
than to buy a shining solar panel. But with time, two three things have happened, and to complete the topic,
Yeah.
the good thing that have happened is the ESCOM rates have gone up. All the ESCOMs across the country, they are going up every year 5% minimum.
Yeah.
And with more losses in ESCOMs, the rates will still go up. There is also a new mandate that has come, if I remember, stating that the subsidies may not continue for long, and all ESCOMs has to make them, the cross subsidies especially, right? The
Yeah.
industries which prefer the residential consumer, they may not happen in long run. So in which case the tariff rates might go up for many consumers, which actually could say, okay, please don't go for coal. Now you have an option to go for solar, which is a green energy. Yes, you're going to pay a little more money for that, but you would get a sustainable energy to your home.
Just again briefing on those lines. So policy wise, I also believe that things have not changed a lot of at a lot of places. But then if I look at it in Delhi as well, it's Discom generally keeps a telescopic unit cost. They have something like, okay, till 100 units you have free or something, and then post that it just goes so high that it pinches you. Like if I am using in summers AC and all, my unit cost goes around 9 to 10 rupees a unit, which is quite high. And in that case scenario, to be honest, solar would be much more cheaper for me than the unit cost of this thing. Again, the problem also lies with, I think, rooftop solar on shadow, which is one of the biggest hindrance in this sector.
Oh,
And
yeah.
not a lot of people understand it. But that is something that, again, awareness needs to be created, which you rightly pointed out. And then coming to the consumer perception, how do you think this has changed from 2011 to now 2020? How do you think people have started adapting to this?
Perceptions actually are not, see, when I remember in 2012, I did an event at PwC. Someone had said, can you set up a stall and talk about solar. And I
Yeah.
still remember actually, and Genpact, I think there's another company where I remember putting a stall there, and people come in asking, I've taken a sample solar panel to show them that, okay, this is a solar panel,
Yeah.
and people telling me that what exactly is this, how does it work, can it heat up the water,
Yeah.
things like that, right? I mean, but on the other hand, I also found that the person who had come from Bihar, I remember, who
Yeah.
was actually come from a village, and he was an engineer, but he
Yeah.
could immediately recognize the panel. He said, this is solar panel, this is solar lantern that he
Wow.
used to have when he wanted to go for solar. And in the urban sector, it was completely unknown because no one has actually seen solar panels till then, right? I mean, day to day life,
Yeah.
you don't see it, but it was already available in the form of solar lanterns, in villages. Even when I was studying, I mean, to tell you, actually, that was in 92, right?
Yeah.
I was in doing my 11th standard, or at the time my dad actually got a solar lantern, you know
Oh, wow.
and actually at home we had a solar lantern at the time. I remember I was reading, with a solar lantern. So, you
Yeah.
know, but I was not in a city, right? I was in a village, and we used to have power cuts, and it's amazing. And the things changed. I think, post, as I said, 2013 the policy came. We really have to tell them, do the first pilot projects to some customer, and then
Yeah.
they actually had word of mouth to their friends and their friends. So, and many companies started, and it's not just us, and many companies in Bangalore, they started, who understood solar and the values of environment, they actually started promoting. So I think the whole ecosystem was built in last 5 years, which didn't exist in urban centers. And I think today everyone understands. And initially, when you explain a concept that you can sell power to the grid, no one used to get it. Now people understand it. Most people understand it, at least in the middle class and higher middle class, and people who have independent homes, or even the apartment complexes. I think there's a huge change in awareness. Only thing that is now the issue is more than awareness. I think is coming to financials at this time. You could see a faster adoption rate in India.
Yeah. But do you think then on financials, there will be such kind of models which come into pay as you go model or something for urban sector that will come up? Or do you feel that it is still far off in Indian urban sector?
No, I think it will come, and I'll talk about it in a little more depth. I think blockchain is something that I'm really looking forward to,
Okay.
where you actually can see today when someone builds it, right? When ESCOM builds it, the billing happens exactly at the end of the month, or when the account gets settled. With a blockchain, actually you can do these changes dynamically. I mean, the payments and gateways can happen in a dynamic fashion. I can actually buy the power and keep it with me. I buy it for 1 year, 6 months. For this many units, I pay one time, and not dynamically it can adjust, right? And I can buy solar from someone, putting it on my roof, or someone else has put on my roof, but he's selling power to someone else in some other locality. Yeah, today the Discom billing and everything happens in a month or 2 months. The period, right? Whenever they pay the money. I think going forward, there's a high possibility that the you could actually buy the power without even knowing whom you are buying the power from, and the other guy is selling power to someone whom he doesn't know, and the accounts are transacted, uh, you know through blockchain. I mean, you have sold to someone, some unknown person, and unknown person has bought the power from you. That means that, let's say I set up a power on your roof. You're the owner of the roof, but I'm the owner of the solar power plant, and I don't sell the power to you, but I sell power to your friend who is 100 kilometers away from you, right?
Yeah.
And I actually can do that adjustments, and in the ledger, which is the blockchain, how much power has been consumed, or how much power has been uh, produced uh, on in real time. And that's a change that could definitely happen, Puneet. I mean, 5 years down the line, I think we would start seeing those kind of technologies play. Today we are still a nascent technology. I mean, nascent in the beginning of the solar rooftop industry, where we have to sell the power only to the grid, whom
Yeah.
who's connected to your home today, right? And that may not be the case in the future, and that really depends on how the grids or how the regulatory commissions would frame their policies.
Yeah.
But I can see that's coming in other countries, and India might actually follow them as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And I feel blockchain and everything is quite good for this industry as well. My only apprehension over there would be the time of implementation, because I'm not sure our grid systems are ready for such kind of ecosystem. We need a lot more digitization in grid, which is happening. I would not say that that is not happening, but it still is at a nascent stage. We need to upgrade our grid infrastructure also on those lines, after which we can open up the ecosystem for startups. And I don't know of many startups working in India on these lines, but I'm hopeful that there will be, because these are some things which are quite out in the market. Everyone is trying to do it, at least in the developed countries, while India is also on its way, but has not reached that point.
Yeah, and I think see, one good thing in the right direction has happened in the last amendment to Electricity Act. They have actually allowed for franchising to the private companies, which means that your local ESCOM actually, would be could be some could be you actually, who is running the entire distribution within your locality, right?
Yeah,
And you could actually be completely independent of the others in the city, in Surat or in Delhi. I could be owning, for example, my locality, and I say, okay, I would connect to my grid. I will sell and buy power with someone else.
yeah,
uh, when the private uh, companies are involved, they would try to maximize their profits and increase their efficiencies. And I think these technologies would play a significant role in doing both. I mean, increasing the efficiency of the grid as well as in maximizing the profits of these companies. And then once you introduce a competition within them, within two, three parties, then the prices will find its optimal place, so where the even the consumers will benefit at the end of the day, right?
yeah,
There is that always a misapprehension about when you give electricity to a private distribution companies, the rates go up, but that's not true. In many places, actually, that's actually it worked other way, because there is always a competition, with others, and when you introduce a competition, the prices will find its optimal value.
yeah. Absolutely, absolutely. You're true, and I think those are highly needed ones as well. I was just attending some webinar recently on these lines. I think it was Saubhagya or something, a scheme around that. And one of the Delhi engineers of electricity department was like, we are managing grid from home. We have system today. Sorry to bring Delhi back again, but that was something like I was surprised that okay, at least some states and cities have started working on grids as well from home, which is surprising. And it is something which is remarkable that you have gone to this much amount of digitization in grid. And I think more of such solutions can be replicated across India, at least to start off with metro cities and then moving on to tier 2, tier 3 cities as well. But that would be a big help for everyone, I feel. So coming to now the next part of the ecosystem development, where there is a huge play of electric vehicles that are coming in. What do you see on those lines? How do you see residential rooftops and electric vehicles getting matched in India? Because that is something a lot of people are talking about. That is something that a lot of people are eyeing for. That this is where both the systems will start get complementing each other and helping each other out. What's your take on that?
I actually been driving an electrical vehicle since 2014. I just
Yeah.
got my second EV vehicle
Oh wow!
this
Congratulations.
last week. Thank you. It's a someone has driven that car. It is 10,000 kilometers and works fine. There are no
Yeah.
moving parts in the car. I mean, on the wheels, and that car works absolutely fine. It's got warranty. So I actually picked up one car.
Yeah.
Uh, and the thing which I saw with the first car as well, I spent I think 7 lakh rupees on the car, and the amount that I saved for driving, I drove like 1 lakh kilometers, and
Wow.
you literally per kilometer, even if you say 5 rupees per kilometer, without considering that there are no maintenance costs for electrical vehicle,
Yeah.
you have actually saved 5 lakh rupees just there, right? If you take 5 rupees per kilometer, typically for most cars in India, in urban cities, they actually per kilometer it might cost you around 8 rupees to 10 rupees. But even if you take 5 rupees, you actually got your money back
Yeah.
on the car. Now, I think those economics will start playing significantly in the consumer market going forward. Uh, we have seen already in the two wheelers segment now. Two wheelers have picked up, like companies like Ather, Hero, Bajaj is now launching EV auto rickshaws. Mahindra is launching auto rickshaws, and then many of the scooter companies have their pipelines already coming with the electrical vehicles. The reason why it's playing out well is the economics of EV work out much cheaper, much cheaper, in fact I must say, than the regular combustion engines. On top of that, you a lot of advantages of EV, right? It doesn't make sound and other things. Now, unfortunately, all these EV vehicles depend on electricity to be available. Now, in India, one thing which we know, if you go out of urban cities, is there is no power available 24 hours.
True.
You have Nirantara Jyoti scheme, but many places you do still experience the power cuts, either because it's a scheduled power cut or because your transformer has gone bad and no one else is there to repair it for days together.
Yeah.
Now, in those cases, what is the source of power where to charge your electrical vehicles? Now, solar actually plugs in very, very well in those areas. When you go to the remote parts, I think tier two cities, you have a challenge of electricity, and you can actually have the solar power plants. You have a lot of space available. I mean, if you just go out of the cities looks cramped, but if you go outside, you have lots of spaces. You can actually set up the power plants, one every village outside, where people can actually put their vehicles, charge them, and then take them during morning time. Now, these kind of ecosystems are being built, and they will be built. It has just started on that. In fact, one of my complaints always has been that most of these EV companies look at urban market,
Yeah.
uh, whereas I feel that market is actually in the tier 2 and tier 3 cities, where you don't have petrol pumps. You have people, actually there's no traffic, but you have to go long distances to go to your farm. Your
Yeah.
farms would be around 50 kilometers away from your small town, and you have to go every day and come back. You have a big market there, right?
Yeah.
Provided you have a power availability there. Now, so it's a chicken and egg problem, right? Now you need to provide the power so that people can buy their electrical vehicles. I hope Indian government works towards providing spaces for some of the companies, as well as government incentivizes to set up the solar power plants and incentivizes EV vehicles, so that they can actually, you can build a complete sustainable ecosystem within a small townships.
True.
Much possible, Puneet, today than it was even 1 year ago, 2 years ago. Uh, Added to that, you can actually have batteries packs, where you can store the power in the morning time and use it during night time for charging, and use the same battery packs again to run your household appliances as well. So there are multiple things that could be done, and I think this all these things would come in the future. I mean, I feel I'm happy and glad that fossil fuel industry is on its way out. Maybe not in 10 years, but at least in next 30 years.
Yeah. So my question is that you are talking about the whole ecosystem of electric vehicles, solar, and battery for home. And in that case scenario, I think it's easier to be done in rural than in urban areas, specifically because of the density and the crowd already present in the urban area. So if you have to see an ideal case scenario, maybe next 20, 25 years down the line, How do you see this whole ecosystem in the urban sector? Where how do you envision it to happen?
Okay. So urban sector is a little different. Yeah, I mean the challenges of urban sector is something that you pointed out earlier. That the keeping solar panels on a roof is a challenge in lots of places, right? I mean because of the shadow factors and other things. So
Yeah,
you may not directly run all this power that is coming into your in Bangalore doesn't necessarily need to come from your individual apartments. So this is a place where you actually can coexist with a ground mounted solar rooftop system. Now you have a ground mounted and you have a solar rooftop system which is uh, producing maybe 10% or 15% of your city's needs, uh, and then your EV, which needs electrical power, uh, could actually come from these farms, the big solar farms where the power could come, and then EVs could be charged during uh, morning time, where in your offices and in your apartment blocks, wherever you are parked your vehicle. And I think that's what I would see in urban sector as far as solar is concerned. As far as EV is concerned, I think the changes, uh, actually my thought, till March 24th, or till the corona hit us badly, uh, was that the vehicles as a service concept, that no one would own the vehicles and people use all these vehicles as a service. They lease them out, they rent them out and use when they need, is what my thought process was as far as vehicles, electrical vehicles was concerned. I mean the uh, passenger vehicles. uh, uh, but then post corona now, the service model has taken a hit in short run. Means you can't really trust what the other guy has used the car. So you want to have your own car or your own scooter or own bike.
true.
So you would still own the vehicles, right? I mean, I think that's a short run. I think long run, I think service model would still work, provided one can prove that the vehicles have been sanitized and kept it clean. I think that model will still fly in going forward. The other aspect in the EV ecosystem I see is all your fleet vehicles.
Yeah,
Take your Swiggy's, or the big baskets, or anything in the industry today. I think they all will move to electrical vehicles. I mean, it just doesn't make any sense for petrol vehicles there, because it's so expensive compared to EV vehicles. Amazon has made an investment of 10,000 EV vehicles for their own fleet already
yeah,
in India.
yeah, yeah,
So I think that ecosystem is going to come in a big way as well.
yeah. Let's hope so that does happen, and we have shifted to more of renewable energy so that we are actually using clean power and we are not polluting the environment.
Yes,
So
exactly.
coming to the next question, Harsha, how do you see your company growing in next maybe a decade or something, and where do you see yourself placed in this whole ecosystem with this growing ecosystem of solar as well as EV?
Yeah, our focus has always been rooftops, Puneet. I mean, I think we would still continue that. Um, Solar, we think as of today, we are not really tied up to solar as much as I actually passionate about, and I'm passionate to talk about it. Our main thing is the environment, and I think the core issue that we are trying to solve as a company is the climate change. And as long as solar is a best solution that is available to achieve that, I think we would continue in solar. If there is any other technologies that actually could come and play a significant role in impacting the climate change, I think we would probably shift to that industry. If that is the case, and something that we may not be able to predict today, 10 years down the line. There are a lot of improvements in efficiencies, from your engines to your ACs to fans. I
Yeah,
think that's a market space. There's a lot of opportunities, as well as it's also something is of a necessity and a need for us. Solar can solve part of the problems, but not all the problems.
true.
So continuing solar, as long as it is one of the best viable solutions, we would continue with solar. And we would actually be looking at all these uh, industries that complement solar, including the EVs, uh, the battery-based lithium technologies, because you need batteries to store the solar power, which is in the morning, and you want to use it in the night. You need some form of a storage. Storage is a big space to be, because storage you're not only using for your EV vehicles, but you also could use it in your homes for the UPS. So that's another market that is of interest to us. If right opportunities strike, and we have enough resources, is something that we would work on.
Yeah.
The other aspect is also, we would be interested in, as I said, blockchain technologies, right? How do you make everyone independent, both the consumer as well as the producer, independent of the utilities? How do you make the transaction? And I think that would be a very, very interesting field. Maybe 5 years down the line, something that some of the solar rooftop companies of today could play a role, including ourselves. That's on the. There's other interesting areas, which we would look at, solar water pumps, where I have worked significantly as well, with ROL, and I think that markets would open up quite 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 a bit, and we could actually play a very good role in that space as well.
So, yeah, I see there quite a lot of variety coming in the future. That it's not just one field, but a lot of other complementary fields as well. When it comes around, then only you can develop a robust ecosystem.
Yeah, and also, just this whole campaign on Atmanirbhar movement, that India should produce its own. I think it's a great movement, and I think Indian industries manufacturing should ramp up. I mean, we should produce our own things that we can consume in our own country, right? I
Yeah.
think, which means that more factories should come. And these factories, and when we talk about this, we don't want these giga factories, right? I mean, what we need is this mini, the medium and small scale industries that come and, like, pop up stores across the country.
Yeah.
Uh, with the technology now, you actually have all these miniature manufacturing units that you can actually set up, in a small area, and then produce them. And the power is always a necessity for all these industries to come. Why is that certain industries don't go to the villages today? Is because they don't have a power availability. Power is a major, major problem, and of course there are other issues like education and their kids,
Mm.
healthcare centers for their kids. But at least the satellite towns, the towns that are around the cities, within 100 kilometers range of a big city, or 150 or 200 kilometers within a big city, they
Yeah.
all can actually build and develop. You're well within the range of 100 kilometers. In 2 hours, you might uh, be in the city. Why not build them, right? Why not build the industries around that? And you
True.
get the power. I mean, power is, I think, is available. I mean, solar is affordable for many people. And we see this. I mean, we see that coming, and I hope, uh, the economy picks up post Corona, or even next year. Uh, Things might start back up again, and more industries do come, and solar could play a very significant role in that space.
True. True. And that's yeah, that's very valid. That it requires that kind of whole infrastructure in place to make sure that such things can actually happen, and we just don't talk about it. And yeah, I think the satellite town concept is quite good as well on those lines. It's just outside the city, it's easily accessible, yet everything is cheaper over there, so your cost of production does go down eventually, which is what you need, which is what you want to make sure that the ecosystem can survive.
Yeah.
So coming to one of the important questions, that while we are trying to understand the future of this whole ecosystem, one of the things, at least my passion is towards, is what kind of skill sets will be required, because what can people expect to work on in future in these lines, if they want to work on, and what do you think on those lines? What kind of jobs it will have, or what kind of skill sets people will need to get into such fields in future if such things are picking up?
Right. A good question. See, and I'll just give you my background. I am have done my civil engineering, and then I did my computer science masters. Then I did something in bioinformatics, totally different. I was interested in biology for some time. I don't know why, but I was really fascinated by genomics at one time, and I actually wanted to pursue my masters in in the molecular biology,
Wow.
and computer science. So bioinformatics was a very interesting field. I did a degree there,
Yeah.
but then I actually my what I do today is totally different. I do uh, work in the electrical field. I may not understand all the nitty-gritties of electricity, but I do understand fairly well how the things work. I think my point is that the skills what you develop in your primary in your 4 years may not necessarily mean that that's what you should be doing in your career as well. And more often than not, you actually end up, most of us, what we would have studied versus what we do is totally different,
True,
right?
true.
And most of us would have developed our skills during the job, or you know coming across certain things, and then would have picked it up uh, along the lines. So skills, same thing with solar. I think solar is something that anyone can actually understand, right? With fair amount of hands-on experiences, and working with the teams, you actually can get a fairly good idea, and then a bit of engineering could help, and you can build the things. I think the whole sustainable energy space uh, is open for non-electricals, including myself.
Yeah.
I think many people can come play a significant role as long as they're passionate about a bigger goal, which is a climate change. I think that drives. And of course, you don't need to be just climate change driven. You could be driven on the money aspect, and I think there's a fair amount of money to be made in this industry. And in terms of skills, you actually, I would suggest, I think we should get out of this mindset of going through a 4 year college space. A job does not necessarily is guaranteed because you have done a 4 years, but it can be guaranteed provided you find an interest in something and you work towards that. And now you have something called MOOC, the modular courses that are
Yeah.
available. I think people can take them and get understanding of it, what things are, and slowly join as interns, right? I mean, apprenticeship is something that we don't have that much in these days. And I remember actually, even when I was a child, there's all these students. My dad is a lecturer, and you have these students actually who work closely with your teachers or with the industries, as part of their, from the during the early days. I mean, it doesn't need to be second year college engineering that you have to go for an apprenticeship. In fact, apprenticeship starts at eighth standard and seventh standard, and to go and learn the skills, right?
Yeah.
To build the passion. I think that skills, vocational skills, Puneet, if I have to say, has nothing to do with the academics, and occasional skills should be something that should be developed from the early stage in this country. And I think solar or sustainability is something that should be taught, and have an hands-on experience for everyone. I mean, you don't need to depend on others to build a solar plant for you. You should be trained enough that you can build on your own and do it. Understand the nitty-gritties of electricity. Uh, I think that's a bigger space that I think would play a role across India. And I would be happy, and I think can predict that going forward in 5 years down the line, you would actually find many of these electricians who may not understand solar today, and many people doing locally the solar systems within a small street, or maintaining, managing them, installing them. You would see many of those jobs opening up.
Yeah. Thank you. Thanks a lot, Harsha. This was quite insightful for sure. The whole of your journey, EcoSoch's journey, and where do we see the whole ecosystem of renewable energy and electric vehicles going in together. Any last comments do you have, if I have missed out on anything that you would like to fill us up on?
I think only one thing which I suggest is on the COVID situation. COVID has played, it played in a native role for not just for people's lives, who are directly affected with the positive cases, but it also has a lot of impact on the livelihood of many Indians as well. And
Yeah.
this is across the world. Solar is no exception to it. Solar has actually taken a hit. I was reading some article that year on year, solar industry has from last quarter two of 2019 to this year, there's an 81% dip in terms of the new plants production.
Yeah.
I think that's a significant number, but there are positive signs are also there. Industry has picked up. We expect that industry to turn around in Q3, Q4 time. Maybe Q2 is almost getting over, but Q3, Q4 we are seeing it. I mean, we have seen the interesting number of people reaching out to us for solar on the rooftop. And if I have to add last point, Puneet, that today when you put your money right in an FD account, you have money and you put the money in FD account, the FD interest rates because of COVID situation have actually dropped. Now you actually get around 4% to 5% at most, the FD interest rates. And many banks are also are not in a good shape. As bank was an example of it.
Yeah.
So keeping money in one bank itself is not such a great idea. You may want to at least distribute it to multiple banks. And if I can add, you could actually invest that money in solar rooftop on your own roof, which actually can give you returns. Even for a small system, you're looking at a returns of 8%.
Yeah.
Earlier it was cheap, less than the FD, but now FDs have become cheaper. So you actually, if you want to do solar, I think it's a good place that many of your audience who are thinking about solar, it's a good place. Your returns would be anywhere above that. Probably you would get your money back within 6 years, or small systems or bigger systems, even 4 years, you probably get it back.
Yeah.
It makes economic sense today to go for solar if you have money sitting in FD. So with that, I thanks Puneet. I mean, I think that's all I had to say.
Thank
But
you, Harsha. And how
I
can
wish.
people reach out to you, if you can just let them know that if they have any more doubts?
Yes. We are at www.ecosoch.com. Our company name is EcoSoch Solar Private Limited. You can reach me at harsha@ecosoch.com, and also at the website you can reach out in the query form if you have any questions or if you're interested to go solar. We do occasionally run our workshops. You could register for one of them. If you want to listen and get a big picture of technically on solar rooftops. And if some of your audience is interested to start their solar business, I think I really welcome it. I think there's a bigger market to do. So if you have any questions, need help, you can always reach me out.
Yes, I do recommend the webinars they do. They are quite informative on a lot of technical aspects of solar, and if you have never attended it, do attend it. And basically now you can do it from anywhere because they do it online. So I would highly recommend that. Thank you, Harsha. Thanks a lot for your time, and thank you for very insightful journey about the whole ecosystem and your company.
You have been listening to the U20 Dialogue series. To know more, check out our website u20india.org. Do share the dialogues with your friends and colleagues. Don't forget to follow our social media handles for more information. Stay tuned for our next dialogue.